Yes, today I'll go through a very brief presentation and also going to talk about two changes that were just recently made to the fund. And then for the remainder of the time, yes, there will be Q&A. So you can
Okay, let me
feel
ask you this:
free.
is that I would like to get on online on my computer, but is that an I or is that a J after web.zoom.us/? Is that a J or an I?
Let me take a look. I have to pull up the invitation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me this afternoon. Today, we'll do a very brief presentation on the Child Care Relief Fund, and then the remainder, which will be the bulk of the time, will be Q&A. So someone just asked about the link to access today's webinar, and that is a J. It's the letter J.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. In the web address for today's meeting, if you want to join by computer. And it is 12 o'clock on the dot. I'm just going to give folks about one more minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And everyone currently is muted. Once we do get to the Q&A section, you can feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. You'll also see a feature where you can raise your hand by hovering over the menu bar, the options by your name, and you can raise your hand and I can call on you for your question, and you can also ask your question in the chat box. So we will go ahead and get started. I am Latasha DeVos, and I am with the Texas Workforce Commission Child Care Business Coaching Team. And today we are going to be talking about applying for the Child Care Relief Fund. So you'll learn more about the Relief Fund, which consists of eligibility and requirements around the application, how to apply, and then also how to get help if you need help with the application or with any other of your childcare business matters. So the Child Care Relief Fund aids in recovery for child care businesses. It's funds to help support your recovery. This fund pays for costs between January 1, 2021 and August 31, 2021. So again, that's the time frame for expenses that this fund will cover. Eligible centers. You must be, eligible facilities. You can be a licensed or registered child care center or home. So this is a key change to eligibility, which is the date by when sites needed to be open and operating. So in order to be eligible, your facility must have been licensed by May 1st, 2021. Or licensed and in the addition to reopened and serving children as of June 18th, 2021. So that has actually extended the time frame for some of the reopenings. If you remember, the original eligibility criteria was that sites must have been just open, licensed, and operating as of May 1st. Now, if you're licensed as of May 1st, however, have reopened by June 18th, you are now eligible and you will be receiving an invitation link to apply. Temporary closures due to COVID-19 are allowable, and your program must not be on any corrective or adverse action with childcare licensing. So the total funding, you will notice once you enter the portal that you'll see a funding amount that has already been determined for your site. The way that amount was determined was by your license capacity and taking 80% of that number, multiplying it by the 75th percentile of the average local market rate for your area. Locations that are in zip codes with fewer childcare locations, also known as childcare deserts, get an additional funding percentage, as well as centers that are facilities that are Texas Rising Star certified or have a national accreditation. So that's the calculation and how the funding amount was determined for each location. So there's 4 steps to the Child Care Relief Fund. Step 1 is preparing. You want to make sure you're gathering your receipts since January 1st, 2021. And you can also identify upcoming July and August costs because those are all applicable to this funding. Step 2, and this is also a new change to the program. The grant application is open from June 11th to July 31st, 2021. So that represents an extension. Originally, there was a 30-day application window from June 11th to July 11th. However, it's been extended. So now the deadline to apply is July 31st, 2021. Step 3, you'll request your funds, get money to cover your costs. And in step 4, you will receive your funding. A check will arrive in the mail to you based on the amount that you've requested. And we'll go into each of these steps in a bit more detail. So in terms of you preparing and gathering your costs, your receipts for your costs, allowable expenses covered by this award are those which are required and necessary for you to maintain your business operations. So some of those costs may include your rent, mortgage, property taxes, and insurance, utility costs, including gas, electricity, telephone, and the internet, payroll, which is a big one, employment taxes and personnel costs, including documented sole proprietor pay, company benefits and 1099 contractors, personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies, disinfectant masks, safety goggles, janitorial services, hand sanitizer, and soap. Those are some of the main allowable costs. But again, keep in mind that you can use these funds for any required and necessary expenses to maintain your business. And if you have any specific questions about that, you can feel free to ask me right now, or you can send an email to us at texas@ecebizcoach.org. So keep in mind when you're gathering the receipts that all costs need to be between January 1 and August 31st of 2021. Also, in-home providers should be mindful when applying expenses such as rent, mortgage, and utilities, as you will need to use your time-space calculation. And that is the same calculation you would use when performing your taxes. Excuse me. So again, for the expenses, you need to apply by July 31st of 2021. However, you can request anticipated July and August 2021 expenses. So for example, if you know that you want to include your rent or mortgage for January through August 31st, then you would need to anticipate how much you would be spending in rent for July and August, and you can apply that towards your funds. So you would anticipate that by requesting those funds in advance, and you would make sure you're getting your application in by July 31st. So what is a valid receipt? A receipt is one which includes the date of service or purchase, what exactly was purchased, and the amount. In the time space calculation that I just mentioned for family childcare providers who need to calculate their home costs based on the percentage of time and space used, there is a very helpful worksheet and calculator on our website, and which is childcare.texas.gov. You can look inside the guide, and towards the end, there are helpful worksheets on just how to calculate your time space. So step 2, you're going to apply online. All eligible providers would have received an invitation by email. If you have any questions about that, or if you have not accessed your invitation and you believe that you are an eligible provider, please email us, texas@ecebizcoach.org, so we can help look into that for you. Once you get into the portal, you will see that your program's general information will already be automatically filled. So all you have to do is essentially verify the information that you see. If you see that any of the information is incorrect or no longer updated or valid, you want to stop the application and email texas@ecebizcoach.org with exactly what it is that's no longer valid. And you will be instructed to first change that information in the child care regulation portal, and then send verification that it has been changed there to texas@ecebizcoach.org so that we can follow through. Because they are two separate systems, the Child Care Relief Fund portal and the Child Care Regulation portal, they are separate. However, we must ensure that any of the information in the CCRF portal matches what is on file for your program for licensing. And that's truly just a measure to protect you and prevent any fraud. When you're in the portal, you want to ensure, again, you're verifying your mailing address and your ownership information, and that all of that is accurate and where you would want your check to be mailed. After you hit submit, you will receive a DocuSign via email. This here says 1 to 2 days, but it's essentially shorter. You should be receiving that DocuSign pretty soon after you actually submit the application. So if 1 or 2 days have passed and you have not received your DocuSign, please send us an email letting us know so that we can get in, look into that for you.
I'm on Zoom.
And we just want to mute everyone. So you're going to let us know if you do not receive that DocuSign. You're going to scan your inbox and also your junk and spam folders because sometimes it can go there as well for the DocuSign. The DocuSign is the agreement for the funding, and it's very brief in terms of the terms of the funding, and you'll sign off on that, and that will solidify essentially your contract between you and the state for these funds. If you are a multi-site, you will need to apply for each of your sites separately, but you can do that from the same login. You'll just go to create a new application or start a new application, and that is how you'll apply for your multiple sites. So step 3 is the actual requesting of the funds. After you sign the provider agreement, which is sent via DocuSign, you will go back into the grant portal and to check your status. It is taking up to 3 weeks for your status to change to approved from the time that the DocuSign is signed. So please keep that in mind. So you can feel free to check your status periodically. However, please allow or expect up to 3 weeks before the status actually says approved. So you will see pending for a while. However, once it is approved, you'll see a button that says request funds, and then there you will enter the amount that you would like to request. You can request the entire amount that your have been allocated, or you can request a partial amount and then go back into the system by August 31st to request your additional funds if you have any remaining. And August 31st is the final day to request any funds for everyone. Please be sure to retain your documentation. So that's your receipts and your proof of payment for the expenses that you have, that these funds are covering. You must retain them on your files for 3 years. There will be a select group of folks that are selected for monitoring. Well, you know what? I'm going into that in the next slide. So let me press OK. All right, so step 4, you're going to receive your funding. You will receive a mailed check within 21 days from actually hitting the request funds button. If you do not receive a check within 21 days, again, email us, please, so that we can help look into that for you. So back to the monitoring. Select businesses or recipients will receive monitoring where TWC will review your expenses. So then you will be instructed on uploading your receipts and proof of payment for review. However, just keep in mind that, if you are one of the programs that are selected for monitoring, that you can be supported through that process. You can meet ahead of time to review your paperwork with a coach, again, by emailing texas@ecebizcoach.org. So some tips for you: apply early. You only have until July 31st. So yes, the applications have been open since June 11th, but we still are encouraging everyone to make sure you apply early. So if you're listening to the webinar today and you're comfortable, make sure you go ahead and start your application, because there is also, of course, that waiting period before you're able to request the funds. And we know that, the funds are much needed and you would rather have them in your pocket as soon as possible. So apply as soon as possible. Be sure to use the guide. It's a step-by-step application guide, and it also answers a lot of questions that you may have, and that's located on childcare.texas.gov. Have your records ready. So already be prepared and understand what you would like to use the funds for, and then keep a great record of those receipts. If you need help or support with the actual application itself, or perhaps you may have other business-related questions, feel free to get coaching. You can sign up for a one-on-one phone call or a series of phone calls with a coach until you've received the help that you're looking for. So again, please visit childcare.texas.gov for the application guide and other links to help, and other resources which are available in English and Spanish. Feel free to email any question. It could be a quick question or a request for coaching. Common questions are like, what's the allowable use of funds? If you have something specific in mind, you can ask, and it's always best, just to receive and answer if you feel that what you're requesting may be something kind of a gray area or on the fence. Feel free to reach out and get support. Our coaches are available to speak English and Spanish and can support you through those coaching calls. And also, similar to this webinar, there's webinars happening 5 times a week and also available in English and Spanish. And the